Think about how many things go through your hands in a single day. They hold cups, open doors, scroll on your phone, fix your hair, cook, write notes, grab a handrail on the stairs, welcome a hug. Now imagine doing something simple, like picking up a glass, buttoning a shirt, or typing a message, and suddenly noticing that your fingers start shaking without you telling them to. The cup wobbles, your handwriting looks messy, the button seems too small, the phone almost slips. At other times, even when you're still, that strange numb feeling shows up, as if the hand had shut off, or an annoying tingling, like tiny needles moving across your skin. In the moment, the most common reaction is to play it down. You shake your hand, rub it, laugh it off so you don't worry too much, and say something ready-made like, "Must be nerves, I probably slept on my arm, it's just age." Since the discomfort eases after a few minutes, the subject ends there. But after a while, it starts coming back. One day you drop cutlery more often. Another day, you can't hold a jar lid properly. Another, you notice your hand loses strength to open a bottle or hold heavier objects. And little by little, those isolated episodes become part of your routine. After 50, any new thing in the body usually goes straight into the same mental drawer. It's normal, I'm getting older. But it's not always that simple. Shaking that keeps happening, tingling that comes back, numbness that insists on showing up in certain fingers, loss of steadiness for small tasks, all of that could be a message. Sometimes it's something milder, related to fatigue, tension, overuse of the cell phone, or posture. In other situations, it may be linked to compressed nerves, changes in circulation, blood sugar issues, side effects of some medications, or even nervous system problems that need closer attention. The idea here is not to scare you or make you believe that any bit of shaking means something serious. The goal is to take these signs out of the never mind category and put them where they belong, things that deserve attention, especially when they show up frequently or get worse over the months. A hand that starts trembling out of nowhere, tingling several times a day, going numb at night, seeming weak to hold what it has always held is not necessarily announcing a serious illness, but it is asking for a more honest conversation between you and your body. Throughout this video, the plan is to show you, in clear language, some possible paths to better understand these messages. We'll talk about situations where shaking shows up more in moments of emotion, anxiety, or stress, and others where it appears without any obvious reason. We'll talk about tingling related to nerves being squeezed in the wrist, spine, neck, and those that are connected to circulation and out-of-control blood sugar. And, mainly, we'll highlight which warning signs call for a quick evaluation, without delay, so you don't run unnecessary risks. Before we go on, leave two things in the comments: your age and how often you feel shaking or tingling in your hands. It could be almost every day. Only when I'm nervous. It shows up a lot at night. It comes and goes. If you take care of a father, mother, grandfather, or grandmother who complains about this, share what you notice in them as well. This exchange helps us understand who this message is really talking to and helps plan content that actually fits the real life of those on this side of the screen. Take a moment as well to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications now. That way, whenever a new video comes out talking about these silent signals the body sends after 50, you get the alert and don't have to rely on luck to find this kind of guidance. Many times, it's a small piece of information received at the right time that prevents a bigger problem down the road. With this image fresh in your mind, you holding objects, noticing your hand failing, feeling that tingling that comes out of nowhere. For now, we're going to walk calmly through these paths. In the next part, the conversation will turn to a very common situation, when shaking shows up mainly in moments of tension, worry, fatigue, or strong emotion, and how to tell this kind of reaction apart from shaking that appears at unexpected times and may be warning that something deeper needs to be investigated. In many cases, the first episodes show up on more stressful days. You're irritated, worried about a bill, waiting for a test result, dealing with a problem at home, and suddenly you notice your fingers won't stay still. The pen shakes, the glass wobbles, the cutlery feels harder to control. Your heart races a little, your breathing gets shorter, your thoughts speed up. It's almost instinctive to blame nerves and, in fact, strong emotions, anxiety, scares, Too much caffeine and sleepless nights can put your whole system on alert, including your extremities. Picture a day when you wake up with your head already full. The phone rings, messages pop up on your screen, you remember appointments, bad news is on the TV. Your body releases classic stress response hormones. Your muscles tense up, your neck stiffens, your jaw tightens. At that point, it's common for your hands to start trembling a bit more because your entire nervous system is running in higher gear. Some people notice this in specific situations: speaking in public, signing an important document, walking into a doctor's office, arguing with someone. Once the situation ends, the shaking eases together with the tension. Too much coffee, certain soft drinks, energy drinks, and even some stimulant medications can also contribute to this sense of instability. After overdoing it with these drinks or substances, you might feel your heart beating faster, a slight cold sweat, difficulty relaxing, and less steady fingers. If, on top of that, you're already tired, sleeping poorly, or going through a difficult emotional phase, the body becomes even more sensitive, and any small trigger becomes fuel for the shaking to appear. Up to this point, many people think, so if it's just that, it's fine. But that's exactly where the caution comes in. Even when it seems tied to emotion, if the problem keeps coming back, it's worth paying more attention. If every week, or almost every day, you notice you can't hold a glass safely in moments that aren't even that stressful, if your fingers shake even in simple situations, if the unsteadiness lasts for a long time after the stressful moment has passed, it's a sign that this deserves to be mentioned in an appointment, not just attributed to "that's how I am." Another important question is, does this shaking show up only when you're doing something, or also when your arm is resting, relaxed, when you're not particularly nervous? In many situations linked to anxiety, the body reacts more during exposure, effort, or tension. Some neurological problems, on the other hand, tend to show up differently, sometimes with involuntary movements even in calm moments while sitting watching TV, lying down, walking quietly. It's not for you to diagnose yourself, but it does help you describe things more clearly to whoever will examine you. It's also worth noticing whether other parts of the body get involved. For example, together with shaky hands, do you feel intense agitation, a constant sense of threat, racing thoughts, serious difficulty sleeping, muscle pain from tension, chest tightness when worried? Or, on the contrary, do you notice only a persistent tremor on its own without your mind seeming that agitated? These details help distinguish a picture that's more emotional from something that may have a different origin. The main point is, don't treat everything as being dramatic or making a fuss. Feeling shaken emotionally is part of life, but when the body starts to show repeated physical signs, hands not obeying, objects falling, insecurity when holding fragile things, it deserves respect. Instead of blaming yourself for being too nervous or trying to fix it with willpower alone, it's much more useful to observe when it happens, how long it lasts, what was going on around you, whether there was caffeine, medication, or sleepless nights involved. Those observations become valuable material when you see a doctor. It's also essential to remember that no video replaces an in-person evaluation. If the instability is getting worse over the months, if it started suddenly and changed the way you perform basic tasks, if it comes along with weakness, loss of coordination, trouble speaking, strange vision, or other symptoms, this is not the time to wait. It's time to seek care as soon as possible. Shaking can simply be a response to a stressful phase, but it can also be part of something that needs to be investigated with more tools than any distant explanation can offer. In the next part, our attention will turn to another very common message: tingling and numbness that insist on showing up in the fingers, wrist, or part of the arm, especially at night or after certain kinds of effort. We'll talk about how the way you use your hands, your posture, and even your neck can put pressure on nerves and turn everyday movements into a constant source of discomfort. Tingling is often even more deceptive than shaking because a lot of people first find it almost funny. The hand falls asleep. You feel a light electric buzz, little needles running through your fingers, a mix of numbness and burning. You shake it, rub it, stretch your arm, change position, and for a few minutes it gets better. The scene repeats at night when you're lying down using your phone, leaning on your side, or early in the morning when you wake up with the feeling that one of your arms isn't yours. Since it goes away, the temptation is to blame bad posture and move on with your day. But over time, this discomfort starts to follow a pattern. Some fingers tingle more often than others, almost always the same ones. Sometimes the numbness shows up mainly in the thumb, index, and middle fingers. In others, it prefers the ring finger and little finger. It can give the impression that your hand is swollen, even though, when you look, it looks the same size. It becomes hard to do delicate movements like sewing, picking up coins, fastening a necklace, typing for a long time. Instead of steadiness, you feel a mix of weakness and lack of sensitivity. A large part of this discomfort is directly related to how the nerves are treated over time. They work like wires carrying messages between the brain and the hands. When they pass through tight spaces surrounded by many structures, any extra pressure can interfere with these signals. That's what happens, for example, when the wrist area spends hours bent, resting on the edge of a table, compressed under the weight of your own body while holding a phone, typing, embroidering, cutting, cooking, always in the same position. Neck posture also plays a role. Spending long periods with your head tilted forward, looking at a screen, or reading can overload the upper spine. Over time, that set of bones, discs, and ligaments can narrow the pathways through which the nerves traveling down to the arms pass. In some people, this shows up as pain for the back of the head to the shoulder. In others, as burning, heaviness, or numbness running down the arm until it reaches the fingers. The sensation may get worse when you look down, turn your head, lift your arm, or lie down in certain positions. Jobs with repetitive movements, sewing, heavy typing, assembly work, intense cleaning, constant tool use, can also irritate the structures around the nerves. The hand spends the whole day doing the same gesture without enough rest, and over the months, pain, tingling, and loss of strength appear. Later in life, when tissues don't recover as easily, this constant strain weighs more. What at 30 only cause fatigue can, at 60, become daily discomfort. It's important to notice what makes it worse and what brings relief. Does the tingling increase at night, especially when you're lying down and flexing your wrists? Do you wake up in the middle of the night with your hand feeling dead and need to hang your arm off the bed, shake it until it improves? Or does the discomfort show up more when you keep the same position for a long time during the day? These details help a lot in pointing out whether the problem is more focused around the wrist, the spine, the shoulders, or a mix of these factors. Another clue is how much this interferes with simple tasks. If you start dropping objects more often, struggle to open packages, feel the dish towel slipping from your hand, your toothbrush not staying firm, the shirt button stubbornly slipping from your fingers, that shows it's not just an annoying tingling, but something that is already affecting your independence. Letting this go on for months or years without guidance increases the risk that the nerve will get more and more irritated and the hand less and less reliable. None of this means that every tingling is serious. In many cases, changing how you use your hands, making small posture adjustments, taking more breaks, doing guided strengthening exercises, and, when necessary, getting the right treatment can relieve the problem quite a lot. But the first step is always recognizing that this sensation doesn't show up for no reason. It's a message, some stretch of the path between brain and fingers is being bothered, compressed, or overloaded. In the next part, we'll talk about another important point: when shaking, numbness, and tingling get mixed up with circulation problems and changes in blood sugar. For those who already live with high blood pressure, diabetes, or chronic illnesses, these signs can take on a different meaning and demand even more attention, because they show that the nerves are suffering not only from posture or effort, but also from what is happening inside the blood vessels and the metabolism. When shaking, numbness, and tingling appear in someone who already has circulation problems or uncontrolled blood sugar, the alert needs to go up a notch. After 50, it's very common to hear diagnoses like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, prediabetes, diabetes itself, poor circulation in the legs. What isn't always explained clearly is that all of this, over time, can also affect the nerves that carry sensations to the hands. It doesn't happen overnight. It builds quietly until the signs start to appear at the fingertips. Think of the circulatory system as a vast network of roads where blood carries oxygen and nutrients. When those roads become narrow, stiff, or full of obstacles, the flow is no longer as free as it used to be. At the same time, sugar levels that stay out of control for years can damage the walls of those pathways and, gradually, the nerves themselves. The result, for the person feeling it, is a mix of strange sensations: constant tingling, light shocks, burning, loss of fine sensitivity, as if the hands weren't reporting properly what they're touching. Many people notice this in tiny details: difficulty feeling the temperature of water accurately, taking longer to notice that they're holding something too hot, being unable to distinguish small textures like crumbs or grains, or even the feeling of wearing a thin, imaginary glove all the time. Instead of treating this as a message from a body, the person gets used to it, adapts the way they do things, and keeps normalizing something that actually deserves a careful checkup. Another point is the way pain shows up. When nerves are suffering, they can either increase sensitivity. Everything hurts more, any touch feels like a jab, or reduce it too much, the person gets hurt and barely feels it. In the hands, that can mean cuts that go unnoticed, burns that take a long time to be noticed, small wounds that don't heal the way they should. For those with high blood sugar, this is especially delicate because the ability to heal is also reduced. It's also worth remembering that some drugs used to treat chronic illnesses can, in certain people, contribute to symptoms in the extremities. That doesn't mean they're villains. Many are essential to protect the heart, kidneys, and brain, but it does mean that any new change in the hands, especially when it appears after starting a treatment, deserves to be mentioned in an appointment. Adjusting doses, changing times, reviewing combinations is something only someone following you closely can do safely. When shaking and tingling are mixed with a history of uncontrolled blood pressure, poorly managed diabetes, very high cholesterol, sedentary lifestyle, and smoking, the situation stops being just an annoying discomfort in the hands. It becomes a visible piece of something bigger, involving vessels, nerves, and the way the whole body is being treated. The good news is that if you notice these signs early and take them seriously, there is room to act. Taking better care of your diet, movement, sleep, proper medication use, and regular follow-up. If you already know you have any of these diagnoses and, lately, have begun to feel more numbness in your hands, frequent tingling, loss of sensitivity or strength, it's worth writing that down as important information for your next appointment. It's not a reason to panic, but it is something that can really help your doctor understand how your circulation and nerves are behaving. Pretending it doesn't exist only delays any chance of improvement. In the next part, we'll talk about a delicate but necessary subject: the signs that cannot be watched calmly at home, because they indicate that something more serious may be happening. Situations in which shaking, weakness, or numbness show up suddenly, unlike anything usual for you. And when the most responsible attitude is not to wait for things to get better, but to seek immediate help without clinging to the idea that it will pass. There is, however, a type of change in the hands that doesn't fit into the category of "I'll keep an eye on it." It's when the body stops sending only subtle messages and switches on a very strong spotlight, the kind that calls for immediate action. In these situations, the worst thing anyone can do is wait to see if it gets better or lie down for a bit to see if it passes. When we're talking about brain, circulation, and nerves, a few hours make a big difference. One of these signs is sudden weakness in one arm. It's not just shaking, it's not just mild tingling. All of a sudden, you try to lift a glass, a bag, a bottle, and notice your hand has no strength. Your arm feels heavier or floppier than the other. Objects slip, the cup falls, the door doesn't open properly. If this happens only on one side and appears suddenly, especially together with other symptoms, it's not the time to look for explanations in a video or wait until tomorrow. Another serious sign is a combination of changes in the hands with changes in the face or speech. One side of your mouth may look droopy, your smile becomes crooked, your tongue feels heavier when you try to speak. You start talking in a slurred way, as if you were too tired or drunk, without having had anything to drink. Along with this, there might be confusion, difficulty understanding what others say, a very strong headache, unlike your usual, loss of vision in one eye or part of your field of vision. Numbness that appears suddenly, taking over one whole side of the body, hand, arm, sometimes face and leg on the same side, is also an important warning. It's not the tingling that slowly builds after you've been in the same position for hours. It's something rapid that changes how you feel half your body in a matter of minutes. In these situations, staying home, testing movements, taking a shower, lying down, or waiting to see if it passes is wasting precious time when treatment could be working to reduce long-term damage. You should also pay attention to episodes in which your hand shakes intensely, way beyond your usual nervous pattern, along with feeling faint, losing consciousness, falls, strange involuntary movements throughout the body, or serious confusion. When someone around you notices that you're not yourself, that you seem different, distant, repeating sentences that don't make sense, it's a sign you can't just argue about whether it's only anxiety. At those moments, the best attitude is to quickly seek help in a place prepared to handle emergencies. It's understandable to be afraid of bothering professionals or showing up for care and being told it was nothing. Many people, afraid of overreacting, prefer to wait. But when it comes to neurological signs, weakness, sudden loss of sensation, changes in speech, facial asymmetry, confusion, the biggest risk is not going to the doctor for nothing. It's taking too long. The body has no way to warn you with subtitles. It uses these signs. It's up to you to decide whether to listen right away or leave it for later. Whenever something appears suddenly, unlike what you're used to, affecting strength, coordination, speech, vision, or consciousness, treat it as a priority. Video, text, advice from relatives, or neighbors do not replace in-person care. This type of content is meant to help you recognize what needs to be taken seriously, not to teach you to handle it alone at home. In the situations where shaking and tingling come slowly, repeating over the months, and changing how you use your hands, the path also isn't to ignore it. The difference is that, in those cases, there's time to prepare for the conversation, gather information, and bring a clearer picture to whoever will follow your case. In the next part, we'll organize exactly that. How to watch what happens with your hands, what to write down, how to describe it, and what kind of information makes an appointment much more useful than just arriving and saying, "My hand feels weird." When the signs aren't explosive but keep appearing here and there, the best thing you can do is turn that worry into organized information. Instead of arriving at your appointment and just saying, "My hand has been weird," it's worth taking a clearer snapshot of what's going on. That helps the professional a lot in understanding whether the problem seems more related to compressed nerves, circulation, blood sugar, medication effects, or something else. A simple way to do this is to pick a notebook, a sheet of paper, or even your phone's notes app and record what you feel for a few days. You don't need to write a lot. Just jot down key details, date, approximate time, and how the symptom appeared. For example, morning while holding a cup, fingers shook, night lying down, right hand tingling in the first 3 fingers, afternoon, difficulty opening jar, felt like I had no grip. In a few days, that log starts to reveal a pattern you wouldn't be able to describe clearly from memory alone. It also helps a lot to note in which situations the discomfort comes up more often. Does it happen more when you're on your phone in bed, after a long stretch on the computer, while sewing, cooking, or doing some repetitive motion? Or does it show up at rest, sitting, without any apparent effort? Does it get worse at night? Does it wake you up? Does it improve when you stretch your arm, change position, shake your hand? All of these are clues to understanding what structures might be involved. Another important point is to note whether there is a difference between right and left. Shaking in both hands in moments of tension means one thing. Persistent tingling only in certain fingers of one hand, almost always on the same side, points in a different direction. If you also feel pain in the neck, shoulders, forearm, or notice stiffness in some nearby part of the body, write that down too. The same goes for symptoms that tag along: headache, strange vision, dizziness, weakness, trouble gripping objects. Putting together a short list of the medications you use regularly also makes a huge difference. Include pills you take every day, drops to help you sleep, natural products, circulation capsules, stimulants, painkillers you use often. Next to each one, note roughly how long it has been part of your routine. If you notice that symptoms began or worsened after starting a certain drug, write that down too. It's not for you to decide on your own that this medication is the culprit, but to bring that information to someone who can evaluate it carefully. At the appointment, instead of saying just sometimes it shakes, sometimes it tingles, you can use this material as a guide. You'll be able to explain which hand bothers you more, which fingers at what moments, what makes it better, what makes it worse, how long it's been going on, whether it's getting worse or has stayed the same. This saves time, prevents important details from getting lost, and shows that you're really paying attention to your own body. Your healthcare provider benefits a lot from a report like this. Finally, remember that none of these notes is meant for you to diagnose yourself at home. They exist to make the conversation richer and more objective. The role of this video is to help you see that shaky or numb hands are not just quirks of age. The role of in-person care is to put together your story, physical exam, habits, lab tests, and from there, decide what to investigate and how to treat. In the next part, we'll tie everything together and wrap up this conversation with a message that goes beyond fear. Understanding that trying to ignore what your hands are showing you is giving up a piece of your independence. And that, in many situations, there is still time to act calmly, responsibly, and with more kindness toward the body that has carried you this far. If you've made it this far, it's because at some point in this conversation you saw yourself in one of these scenes. The glass that almost slips, fingers that shake at odd times, the feeling of tiny needles walking across your hand, the numbness that insists on returning, the quiet fear of losing the steadiness to do simple things. Maybe you've spent years telling yourself it was just nerves, just posture, just age. Now, at least you know that these explanations may be part of the story, but they don't have to be the final word. Hands that shake or tingle don't automatically mean something serious. In many cases, with adjustments in your routine, care with your neck and wrists, with how long you stay in the same position, with blood pressure and blood sugar control, things get much better. In others, the help comes from specific treatments, guided by people who understand the subject. What really doesn't help is pretending nothing is happening, pushing away for months or years of discomfort that is already stealing steadiness, safety, and peace when you hold the world in your hands. It's worth remembering that caring for your hands is caring for your autonomy. They're what allow you to cook for those you love, write notes, hold old photos, lean on the handrail, button your own clothes, caress someone's face. When you pay attention to these signs, you're not being dramatic. You're defending your ability to keep doing independently things that seem small but uphold your dignity day to day. If this topic resonated with you, tell us in the comments what made the most sense. Realizing that nerves don't explain everything, recognizing the pattern of tingling that always returns in the same fingers, understanding the connection with circulation problems and blood sugar, or was it the warning about signs that call for immediate help? Writing it down helps you organize your thoughts and can also be a mirror for other people living the same thing in silence. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is a good time to do it and turn on notifications. That way, the next videos about subtle signals the body sends after 50 get to you effortlessly. And if you know someone who keeps saying, "My hand feels weird," who drops things, who feels numbness every night and says it's nothing, share this with them so they can watch it calmly. Sometimes it's exactly this kind of quiet conversation that helps someone finally decide to seek help. In the end, your hands aren't just shaking or tingling. They're talking to you in the only way they can about what's going on inside. Ignoring that conversation is one choice. Listening, observing, and taking it seriously is another. From now on, you know very well which one can better protect the road you still have ahead.